Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Rob Ryan Red, the Wrexham podcast brought to you with Red 10 People Development. On this week's show, we will look back at QPR, look ahead to Norwich and Reading, and we will question, is Phil Parkinson still the right man to take Wrexham forward? All that and more on today's bumper show.
Rob Ryan Red.
Well, Nathan, homage to QPR. I'm wearing my blue and white Wrexham shirt today. They did a job on us at the weekend. Wrexham still winless at home in the Championship this season. I feel like it's been a bit doom and gloom this week as a Wrexham fan. I know we'll get onto it. You put out a question saying how many points we'll get over the next 5 games. The responses to that seem quite negative as well. Do you think this is just the mood of fans who've watched their team lose after a long international break, or how are you feeling? Do you feel there's more at play right now?
I feel all right. I feel like, the dust has very much settled now from QPR. I think, no one needs to tell us how difficult the Championship is now. I think we were braced for that going into the season. I don't think anyone was talking up, top 2, or we were going to, walk the league or anything stupid like that. But I think it really has dawned on us that, I remember I spoke to George Dobson after the West Brom game. I think it might have been after the West Brom game. And he said that, well, you wouldn't actually say it. It felt like in League One, there were a couple of games you'd look at and go, it's a really strong chance of 3 points. That's that looks like a game we can and should win. For the Championship, I mean, QPR at home on paper, I think you'd have thought that looks like a game that Wrexham, if they've got ambitions to be top 8, top 7, should be a game they should win in, and we got played off the park. So I've stopped now considering any game winnable and just see now. I don't know.
So yeah, again, I think it is important to say before we maybe go into the details too much. Wrexham, at time recording, 21st in the Championship, above the relegation zone, crucially. Oxford United below us. Sheffield Wednesday have a point. Their only point of the season was at the Kairos, they're 23rd. And then winless Sheffield United, who have changed their manager. And that could become, an interesting debate for us to have now, Nath, because the QPR game was maybe the accumulation of everything negative we've had to say about Parky's time at the club. And I think, we've always said Phil Parkinson does not get the credit he deserves as a Wrexham manager, because for me, his greatest strength has always been his sort of traditional values and his philosophy, and that is to have a team of hard-working professionals. And Parky will never get credit for what he's done because he's had a huge wage behind him. The National League promotion and League Two promotion particularly, we were expected to go up, and we did that. Whether you like it or not, we kind of bullied our way out of the leagues. We spent more than lots of teams with bigger budget, bigger wage bill, better players. That is a fundamental reason we got promoted from National League and League Two. But the manager also recruited the right players, so he deserves huge credit for that, and he kept the dressing room in check. League One, I think we've both said we were not the second best team last season, but there was so much sort of turbulence at other clubs, lots of managerial changes, lots of new arrivals, that we took advantage of an unstable pack. And because we had an established system, an effective way of playing, and we had that camaraderie, that teamwork, that belief, we took advantage of the field. We blitzed Charlton at the end. We came real good in the final few games that mattered most. We got off the line. And then the step up to the Championship, the quality, we knew the step up in quality would be huge. And we've seen already this season, every single team has players that can now punish you. So it's not just a case of maybe buying your way out of the league. We said on last week's podcast that Wrexham's squad value is bang middle for Championship. So you need to have a way to compensate that, and that is by outwitting teams, outsmarting them, doing things tactically. And we've never really evolved tactically, and that's been, again, I think something we've said throughout Parky's reign. Even when things are going well in National League and League Two, stylistically it wasn't always that attractive, but we found a way to win. Justification, the ends justified the means for us. That was absolutely fine. Consequentialism there. And now it's starting to slightly unravel a little bit. We're still, like I said, we'd be safe if the league finished now. We'd survive. But with the money we've invested, Nath, can we now start to expect more from Wrexham as a footballing team? And can Phil Parkinson be the man to do that?
The really easy questions to start the podcast on. Nice. Like it. I would say that, without getting too philosophical, to much is given, much is expected. So if you spend significantly, you have the biggest net spend in the Championship, you're not going to be able to walk into the boardroom and say, right, lads, we're all set to finish 21st. It doesn't work like that. So Parkinson has been backed heavily. He said himself that it was a necessary spend, because if Wrexham wanted to compete, and, I guess there's varying interpretations of that word. Are you competing to survive in the league? Are you competing to get into the playoffs? Are you competing to be in the top two? Yeah, Wrexham needed, we all, everyone listening to this, everyone who's following Wrexham understood that the team that got us out of League One was not going to be able to compete in the Championship. I don't think that's breaking news to anyone. Rich, I'm sure you would absolutely agree with that. So we needed to spend, but like I say, to much is given, much is expected, and therefore, and to use another phrase, pressure is a privilege. Players want to play in the Championship. They want to play in the Premier League. They want to play in Europe. Managers want to be at the top level. They're remunerated for that. Usually, players get paid a lot more money. We've seen our wage bill rocket this season. Parky, I'm sure, as it's gone on, will have been compensated very nicely as it's gone on with various bonuses and whatnot. And now, the pressure is even higher, as high as it's ever been in this journey. And so I think it's all fair game. I would say that from conversations I've had with sources close to the manager, there is nothing to report right now, nothing in this idea that he's been given some sort of 5-year extension, new 5-year contract, and nothing to suggest that there has been any threat to his job. And I think that is probably a good place for me to hand the baton back to you, Rich, to say that while there's a lot of external noise, internally, it's not sort of sunshine and rainbows, obviously, because we're 21st in the league and haven't won at home, but it's not panic stations either.
No, again, I think it's important to reiterate, we're 5 league games into the campaign, and that is so, the bulk of the season is well ahead of us. You've got 41 league matches left. We're still, at the time of recording, in the Carabao Cup. We'll have the FA Cup third round as well in January. We are doing we're well on course still to achieve anything we want to this season, because you can go and do that, and teams have runs of form, and quite often a team who's in the bottom half come Christmas can finish in the playoffs, and they can be the team that goes up. So I think that is maybe the word that I'd say. Just be a little patient, be cautious. Let's give Parky, he's right now, he's in credit still, isn't he? 3 promotions, and he's got the goodwill to have a go. I suppose, Nath, the question eventually comes down to, what is it the owners want? Because from my personal perspective now, as a Wrexham fan, this isn't me trying to be a journalist, a reporter, whatever I'd call myself in a Wrexham guise. As a Wrexham fan, at the start of the season, it's not my money. For me, I'm just happy to be in the Championship. I really am. But the owners aren't just here to do the 92. They're not bothered about going to Norwich just to go see Carrow Road. They want to go and win. They want to get out of this league with a promotion rather than relegation. So from a Wrexham fan point of view, I would take 21st come the end of the season. I don't care. We're in the Championship. This is all I've ever dreamed of. I am so giddy, and I'm still loving this journey. So I'd give Parky the season almost as a fan. If as long as you're not rock bottom at Christmas or something, I'd say, if we're out of the relegation zone, I'd give Parky, even if it doesn't feel like we're going anywhere, he's earned the right. But from the owner's perspective, it's a 2-year plan to get to the Premier League. And if it's a 2-year plan to the Premier League and you've spent as much as we have already, you cannot afford to waste any time. Like I said, from Robin Ryan's point of view, Mike Williamson's point of view, they aren't just here to tick off the grounds and to experience the Championship. They want to be in the Premier League. And with that attitude and that immediate will to win, you've got to ask yourself this. If it's a 2-year project to get to the Premier League, can I ask you this as well, Nath? Do you think Phil Parkinson will take Wrexham to the Premier League?
Well, I hope you're going to answer this as well. Otherwise, I don't like the bad guy. I don't think so.
And
I don't think so.
I'd also say no, because I think you have to. You could spend a ridiculous amount of money, and maybe by virtue of having much better players, we could do so. But I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of millions. I just don't think tactically we're going to be able to outsmart enough teams this season, or maybe next season, to get promoted to the Premier League. So if your answer, and this is to anyone listening, if your answer is Phil Parkinson won't be the manager to take us to the Premier League, the devil's advocate would say, well, why don't you get the next guy in as soon as you can? Just so he's got as much time as part of a 2-year project. I don't think it's at that stage right now, but that's what I'd argue from an ownership, horrible, ruthless. If you want to win right now, you need to have the guys go and get you to the Premier League and in charge. And if we've got doubts about the guy who's in charge currently,
The new guy doesn't have, or any new guy would not have any credit in the bank, and I don't think 5 games, one of which was an impressive win away at Millwall, who were a good team. I don't think 5 games can undo 3 years of history. While you can't live in the past, Parky and the ownership have been comfortable enough to move on from playing legends, Mullin, Palmer. We didn't see Elliot Lee on the bench at the weekend. I think he will be watching from the sidelines a lot like us, unless there are, major injuries. And even now they've got injuries and he's still not making a 9-man bench. Was it a 7-man bench last year? It's extended now to a 9-man bench. So these players that have played a crucial role in getting us to where we are. Mark Howard now playing very well at Salford City. So congratulations to him. He's doing well there. And there are others along the way. So if players have their ceiling, then of course a manager does as well. I've said it previously about Neil Warnock being an EFL great, but never quite made the grade in the Premier League. And there are some managers in the Premier League that I don't think would be a great fit in the EFL for the kind of rugged nature of it and their type of football. We've seen Notts County really insist on this playing out from the back, and they've conceded some horrendous goals over the years, and they're still stuck in League Two when they were, looked like they were going neck and neck with us when we were in League Two. And now there's that 2-division gap. So my point being is that I don't think 5 games should undo all of that, or all the great work you've done, like you say, the recruitment. And ultimately, we've trusted his recruitment to this point, haven't we? We're saying, right, yeah, what a pickup Dobson was, and like what a buy Mullin was, and what a move Tom O'Connor was, or all these others along the way. And so he's gone out and got 13 new players, and we need to see them. We didn't see Issa Kabore against QPR. He'd only arrived back in the country on Friday, hadn't even had a training session, so was never in contention to play that game on Saturday. That's totally understandable. Dom Hyam, again, being on international duty, he'd had, 1 or 2 sessions. Like I say, it was unlikely after Max's performance at Millwall to come in. And Ben Sheaf obviously comes on in the second half. Broadhead wasn't really in a position to play more than a sort of cameo role off the bench. Windass has been out since the West Brom game, is it? Kakache injured again. Is he out now for 4 weeks with a hamstring problem? So you've got to allow him to use the tools at his disposal. We've allowed him to buy the tools, and now we won't let him sort of get to work. So let's see. I don't think there's any sort of internal panic right now, but I also don't think the rope is as long as some people think it is. If we get to 10 games, 15 games, and we're 21st, 20th, I think you'll then see a change, I think.
yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, I think that was playing devil's advocate. I think he deserves the time. And like you said there, I think there's 2 really interesting points. One is the fact he's got a new squad. The squad needs time to gel. We saw that in Parky's first season where he built a squad from scratch. We had to wait till January before we started, getting in the position. I can't remember the exact stat, but were we 12th or 13th at Christmas, I think, in Parky's first season? And we went on to finish second, got to the FA Trophy final. Next season, we do get promoted. So, you need to give this time an opportunity to gel. And you've answered the question yourself there, Nave. Most of the players we've signed in the summer have had injuries already. You've had Danny Ward, who I don't want to go into QPR too much, but I think the QPR game showed why Danny Ward was our number 1. Honestly, I do. I know lots of people might not blame Okonkwo. I just think for the first goal and the third goal, he's not commanding enough. You need to make a decision, stick to it. I don't think he did that for either of the goals, personally.
But by that token, has Danny Ward then not cost us against West Brom? And so both of them have had a poor game.
Yeah, I'd say Danny Ward, though, has redeemed himself. Like, I think he was excellent against Southampton. I know we lost that game. I think he's played really well for me this season, Danny Ward. I've been blown away, actually, considering what I expected.
Arthur saved us the victory late on at Millwall, clearing off the line. Brilliant save off the line. So, swings and roundabouts, I would say.
I'm Ward over Okonkwo, though, clearly, right now. And in terms of other signings, Kakache looked really good, but we've not seen any of him. Like I said, Hyman, Sheaf and Kabori aren't really match fit yet. We had, Kiefer Moore had his little knock, came back. That was fine. The other new signings, Connor Cody's looked rough in centre back, but I think that's systematic as much as him. He's played badly, but I also think the system hasn't helped him at all. And we said in the summer, I think, didn't we, that I felt we were going into the season light at wing back. And for me, that's where a lot of our issues stem from, because the reason why our defence is getting so exploited is because it's getting so little cover from those at wing back. And yeah, I think injuries and fitness issues have been a contributing factor to Wrexham this season. I think the other factor is Parky's not been able to play what he'd consider to be his strongest lineup. He won't be able to do that. Who knows when, because Ward's not even registered when he does return.
Rich.
So yeah, there's a lot of nuance to it.
We're going to get on to injuries, the wing back to the system in the next segment, but just on Parky, I would say that, anyone who's watched the documentary will remember that episode, whether it was dramatised slightly, but it was called Sack the Gaffer. So it was much nuance to the title, right? And they had this debate about, should we stick with Parky, should we not? And this is in the non-league days, right? And they do stick with him. And, we had that podcast very early on, I think after we'd lost at Grimsby. I think Jake Hyde scored and we said, is that the end of 3-5-2? Little did we know that was far from the end of 3-5-2. But my point being is really since that point, there's been no question marks over Parky. And I also think with these things, like I say, with our day job, we're around a media circus that, drives a lot of interest around the sack race, around the future of the manager. We haven't really had that level of scrutiny on Parky. One, because there's been no need for it. We've been winning promotions, we've been winning matches, we're keeping clean sheet records, we've been doing all sorts. So there's been no need to have those conversations. But even in that National League era where we did have those conversations, or at least the ownership did in the documentary, there was no widespread reporting of it in the media. That will change now. You are in one of the most exciting leagues in the world. The Championship is incredibly popular worldwide. And I know from messages I've had, calls I've had, that there are out-of-work managers using their reps to make it known to Mike Williamson and others at the club that they are very much interested in the Wrexham job. The Wrexham job, we had this debate off air, Rich, I think is easily one of the most attractive jobs out there whenever it becomes available. And we hope it doesn't become available for a long period of time. But everything that goes into it, the sort of the backing you would have, the notoriety, I think higher up, you go managers and their own image comes into it, a bit. I think that's been one of the blessings of Parky. He didn't really care too much about his image and just got in down and dirty in Division 5. When you get up and there's some of these flashier managers, they do care about that. And, Rob and Ryan, you'd be put on a global stage. You'd be able to be the guy, if it comes to this. I'm hypothesizing a bit here, but my point being is that media will now descend on every result. If, unfortunately, we do lose at Norwich or we get knocked out of the Carabao Cup in the next week, you will probably see more stories. And I don't want to sort of denigrate any of the reporter, and because I don't know their sources or who they've spoken to that's given their information, right? It could very much well be accurate. But I think now we're in a cycle where just because of that start, every defeat now is going to see question marks around Parky. And he's going to have to sit in a press conference and maybe more reporters will turn up and more people will be quizzing him about his future. Are you the man to... And that's new territory as well. It's new territory for the ownership, new territory for Parky in that sense. I know he's had other jobs at Sunderland and whatnot, massive club, huge scrutiny there. But at Wrexham, I'm talking about now. And like I said, I know there's other people calling me saying this manager's, pushing for it or is keen on it. And what have you heard? What have you heard? And that's new, I think. So the future of Parkinson. There'll be some people in the comments that say this is far too premature, lads. This is, not a debate that needed to be had. Unfortunately, it's not going to go away. The only way this goes away is if Wrexham rattle off 5 quick wins and suddenly everyone gets bored of that narrative. But unfortunately, the way the media landscape is, until Wrexham can get those wins, every negative result will pile the pressure on, and they'll be front of the queue to drum up interest because Wrexham is a massive kind of traffic driver.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the world we live in. It's the same with transfers. Link a player to Wrexham if you want a new contract or you want to move. And in terms of managers as well, there's sometimes an ulterior motive of why an agent or a rep might be trying to get that cauldron sort of circling. And what I want to maybe ask you then, Nath, is this. We both think right now, Parky in, keep him, give him a chance. We can't judge him after 5 games. You've got to give him time with this team to gel and see where we're up to. I'd say at least until Christmas personally, and then you evaluate it then. What I want to ask you though is hypothetically, at what stage do you think Wrexham the ownership would decide to make a change? What do you think they'd have to maybe not see? Or what position would Wrexham have to be in, do you think, for there to be a managerial change? How severe would it have to get? Because it's 5 games in. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I think if they sort of struggle to get more than 3 wins out of the next 10, or no, that's probably too many, isn't it? If they get something like 1 or fewer win, if they don't win in the next 10 or they only get 1 win from the next 10 games to get you to 15 games, that's when I think there would be real concerns at that point, and because at that point you're 15 games into a season. That's a decent chunk. By that point, it's not a case of gelling, and we'll get into it in the next segment. I actually think it's maybe not as much about Parky's drawbacks. It's the drawback for me is the team that's been built, I think, has fundamental flaws, which I said after the West Brom game, and I'll say again now in the rest of the podcast, and I'll probably say again in 10 games time. It's not a team, I think, that's built to succeed against a lot of championship teams.
Right then, Nath, on that note, players, personnel, Parky, what is the problem at Wrexham right now? Is it really even the problem at all? Well, Parky spoke to the leader this week, and I'll paraphrase one of the quotes that he gave, but he basically says, if you look at the quality we've got, I think it's there for all to see. Now it's my job and Steve Parkinson's job and the rest of the coaching staff to formulate the group and get a group understanding of what we've done well at periods this season, because we've had a lot of good periods, even in the home games. But it's obvious we can't give up the chances we have done, certainly at home. It's as simple as that, and we've got to find a solution to that. Is it personnel or is it tweaking the shape of the team? We're looking at all that to come up with a formula we believe can give us a stronger base to go and win games of football. Now, from our own journalistic point of view, it's refreshing to hear a manager who openly admits he might have to change his philosophy and his formation. Like I said, I do think in terms of all managers will tell you there is an overemphasis on formations, because when a team's on the pitch, they're not thinking, oh, we're playing 3-5-2. Who's the cam? They'll be saying, right, I'm in this role. My duty is to do this on this area of the pitch, to track this man. They don't think of it as sort of binary as I'm playing a 3-5-2 like it's on FIFA. They don't set out to say that all the time. It'll just be, how many people are we defending with now? Wrexham will attack with 3 centre-backs in the defence, and when they're defending, they'll go to a back 5. It is rigid. It's fluid in a game. So I can sympathise with managers when we are always really fascinated about formation, because quite a lot of the time it's not about that. It's about what they're doing in those individual roles. Parky there has said, look, he's basically said, I think they've taken that they'll consider going to a back 4 if that's what they think's fit. And we're going to talk now about what we think were the issues. And we've seen issues all season. Like I said, I think they all came to the fore against QPR at the weekend. And for me, like I said, wing backs just seem to be the biggest issue at the moment. I'd love to see this Wrexham team with Kabore fully fit on the right and Kakache fully fit on the left. I think we would look a completely different side if and hopefully when that does happen. But right now, that's not the case. Kakache, like you said, out for 4 weeks, probably out until after the October international break by that logic. And on the right side, Kabore is not match fit yet. But wing backs, and particularly maybe James McLean, club captain, they were a real issue against QPR, weren't they?
They've been a real issue all season. They're a real issue against West Brom. They were a real issue against Sheffield Wednesday. They were, for large spells, a real issue against Hull. You've pointed previously to Southampton games, not solely on the wing backs, but you pointed to Ryan Longman, who was playing at wing back in that game, switching off the marker. Got again in behind the wing back, and they flash across, and then it goes in. Jack Stevens or whoever it was who scored. Millwall in the first half, if you actually saw that game, you watched that game, Ryan Longman was absolutely torched by whoever their left winger was, and they just couldn't finish their dinner, which was good news for us. But unfortunately, I was listening back actually to a pre-season podcast where Sutty came on with you, I think it was, Rich. God knows where I was. And he was talking to you about pace and power. We lack both those things in the most key area. Well, I've said it before, you'll say I sound like a broken record. If the wing backs are not 2 or 3 of your best players in each game, you'll lose in the Championship. You look at Romain Borrell against QPR, came up from, I think he was at Burton Albion last year. He's a solid winger, but he's not, he's not going to end up in the Championship Team of the Year. And he absolutely ran Wrexham ragged. I thought he was phenomenal. He was made to look phenomenal by the amount of space in behind the wing-backs. Issues at wing-backs mean that the centre-backs are stretching out. It's leaving one isolated centre-back, which is Connor Cody, who simply doesn't have the pace to cover huge amounts of ground. The whole point of a back three is to shield and protect him, and what have we said about having pace either side of him? And just to crystallise my point about the wing-backs, the back five, the back three, whatever you want to say, Wrexham have conceded a league-high expected goals of 12.56. That's the worst stat in the Championship. We are number 1 for that. And Wrexham have faced 101 shots across 5 Championship matches. 101 shots across 5 games, which is the highest total of any side in the division. Easily, comfortably the highest in the division. That, to me, tells me it's not sustainable. So we conceded, 3 against West Brom. We conceded 2 against Sheffield Wednesday. Should have been 3. Charlie McNeil should score. That's a good save by Danny Ward. We concede 3 against QPR. We concede 3 against Hull in the Carabao. Who else we conceded? What was it? We conceded against Preston. 2, was it against Preston? 1, I've forgotten.
1, 2, 1 at Preston. 2 on at Preston, right. Southampton.
And Southampton 2. Certain games, right? I'll pass it back to you. Certain games, Southampton, tough game. I predict them to win the league, whether they do or not. But that's a tough game. They dominated the ball. We got tired. Kiefer Moore comes off. A lot of mitigating circumstances. West Brom, beaten by a better team. QPR, beaten by a better team. But you can't keep saying that when you actually watch it. It's fundamentally flawed, the wing-backs. The wing-backs are not good enough at the level. And unfortunately, that could change with Kakachi and Kabore. But right now, on the evidence we've seen, the wing-backs we have are not good enough, and they will lose their battle a lot more than they win their battle.
Yeah, for me, that's where it all stems from as well. And I said this in our group chat. I actually thought there was a stage on Saturday against QPR where I thought we were going to come back and get a draw or maybe even a win. I thought we had a decent start to the game, good 15 minutes. Last half hour of the first half, they were all over us. And in the second half, there was a stage where for about 20, 25 minutes, I thought we were the better team. That long ball, the top kills us. They almost get a fourth and we sort of drop towards the end as well then. But I did think that on Saturday we could, on a different day, maybe have got something from the game, from being a very sort of positive, happy clapper in that attribute. But yeah, like I said, for me, everything stems from the wing backs. You're not getting enough offensively or defensively out of them. That then creates the pressure on the centre backs who are all stretched out of position. Whether you like it or not, Doyle is a superb, experienced defender at this level. He's still very young, very raw, and he almost overcompensates at times. If someone else he feels is out of position or something, he will run an extra 5-10 yards to try cover that ground, and he can then be out of position. Like I said with Cody, I think you could put most centre backs in the centre of that back three and they would struggle right now. I do think he was poor. I'm not giving him a free pass, but I think it's such an unenviable job what he got at this moment in time. We saw that as well when Ben Tozer played centre back for us, that in certain games the rest of the team were just putting such an overemphasis on his role that he was going to get exploited. I also think by having high wing backs, you're not getting enough cover in the midfield areas either. They're not cutting in and sitting deep as almost fullbacks at times. So the defensive midfielder, Matty James, can get ram ragged as well. So it just takes a 1-2, one quick pass, and you're behind him, and you're free. You're just one-on-one with the centre backs then. So for me, everything stems from the wing backs. Like we said, hopefully we see Kakache, hopefully see Kabore at some stage this season together, and we can actually have a better idea of how Wrexham play. We did go on social media today as well, Nave, to say, and this is maybe more of our Norwich preview, if Kakache's out now for 4 weeks, who do fans want to see at left wing back in these coming weeks? And we gave them 4 options. The most popular option was to stick Ryan Barnett or Ryan Longman at left wing back. I think that is probably the most likely, I'd say, solution.
Probably. You know what I would do? I would put Lewis Brunt back in at left centre back, and I would put Doyle out there and just try and be defensively solid. If we're not going to get a lot going forward out of Doyle, that's all right. We just cannot lose on both sides of the ball, and I struggle to believe that with Doyle you would lose on both sides of the ball. You know, we should point out, for fairness, we should point out that, you know, McLean has made an impact in some attacking situations, right? With 2 assists this season. He did get that assist off the bench at Millwall for O'Brien. That's a delicious ball into him. But more often than not, defensively, especially down that left side, we have looked incredibly vulnerable. And teams, you know, if we can see it and we're just 2, you know, boneheaded football podcasters, yeah, you best believe analysts are going, poor, our right wing is going to have a field day here. And like I say, if McNeil puts that away, which I would imagine QPR would have put that away, that same chance that Sheffield Wednesday had in the final moments, we wouldn't even, you know, we'd be a point worse off than we already are. That's the left wing back and right wing back. I really think that whoever you put in there is a huge area of concern.
Yeah. So 40% of fans we asked wanted Barnett or Longman. 36.5% want Kabore to play left wing back. He's never played there before, so I think he's got to play on the right side for me. 14% agreed with you. They'd like to see Doyle at left wing back, bring Brunt into centre back. The least popular answer was James McLean. 9.7% of Wrexham fans we asked wanted to see him keep his place at Norwich this weekend. That is the type of fuel he will love to hear, no doubt anyway, though. I think that's what Macca will want. I'm sure he will have his own verdict on what's gone wrong, and it won't just be that the wing backs aren't working at the moment. I guess the other maybe little concerns we've seen, Nath, midfield, I feel we just haven't. I think once Sheaf is match fit and acclimatised and knows the system, I think midfield will be fine. I think that 3 will be okay. Again, the over-reliance on Kiefer Moore, I think we saw that on Saturday, that when the ball went to Sam Smith, he just did not have the same just ruthlessness, I suppose, and usefulness at championship level that Kiefer Moore does. And I guess even if you've got amazing wing backs in this team, Nath, are we still just a bit one-dimensional in attack?
If you had amazing wing backs, it would be a difference maker, because you could really pin teams back. We can't pin a team back outside of Kiefer Moore. You know, Ryan Hardy, I know he has that good chance that he flashes wide. Is I don't know. I'm already digging out enough people and players. I don't need to sort of add Ryan Hardy to the list, but you know, we'll see how it goes with him. The very much jury's still out on Ryan Hardy for me. He wouldn't be my starter at Norwich or moving forward. So I just think, I do think, look at all the teams that we've come up against and like who their best players have been by and large. It's been their wide players. They're playing a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, and it is the left winger, it is the right winger who are just a level above. They're just that player that is just that good at the level. And okay, here was a slightly different example, but you're talking about the midfield, that gap between the midfield and the defence, because you kind of, like Cody, that one drop off so that they don't get caught in behind as they did with the Kone chance, basically. And you've got maybe Matty James, and who's hasn't got the mobility of his younger years. Did you see Koki Sato, the lad at QPR, who I just thought was absolutely fabulous player, just like a real gem of a player? And the way he was able to manipulate the space and manipulate the ball, and suddenly, you know, we have solid players, but we don't have a lot of pace in that team. And do we have a lot of power outside Kiefer Moore? I just really, when I listen back to that thing that Sutty was saying, and Sutty's covered Sheffield United, and he's watched the Championship he's watched Leeds for a long time and has watched the Championship for a long time, and he knows about this level, like a lot of us have who've watched it. And I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence of the Championship, but I think we've got a lot of good pieces, but it's so easy, I think, to game plan against Wrexham. And I didn't think I would be saying that coming out of the transfer window.
No, it is our sort of kryptonite, isn't it? You just play out wide. That seems to be the way to get in behind us and cause all these problems. Let us know what you think, though. gmail.com. I will comment. I'm sure if you watch on YouTube, there'll be lots of you abusing us already.
We're getting crucified. You'll probably come off all right. I think I'm going to get absolutely mauled.
I think there's a lot of debate to be had, isn't there, at this moment in time? So let us know on emails and stuff. What do you think the problem at Wrexham is at the moment? Is it down to injuries? Is it down to the tactics? Is it down to the manager? Is it a combination, a little bit of all three? Should we all just lighten up a little bit? We're in the Championship. Have some fun. Let's go to Carrow Road. Let's take another stadium off the list. We will let you know next week some of your correspondence to that. So thank you very much for getting involved. We really do love to hear your opinions. Speaking of Carrow Road this weekend, then Phil Parkinson has also revealed, along with the Kakache news that he will be out for about 4 weeks, that Josh Windass and George Thomason should both be back in contention. They've been training on the grass. Last week's game against QPR was just a bit too soon for either of them to be involved from the game. You've also got Reading as well on Tuesday, so I'd expect personally right now Thomason to maybe feature in that game because it seems like a gentler one. We've already seen Windass this season. Does he go into your lineup this weekend?
I'll tell you what, before we even get onto our lineups, let's get the Norwich preview so I can get a better gist of what we're coming up against, and then I'll give some thoughts to who I'm going to pick. So you did the Norwich preview for us, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, so we caught up with Bleed Norwich ahead of our trip to Norfolk this weekend, and this is what they had to say about the Canaries. So Norwich away this weekend then. What can we expect from the Canaries? It's going to be interesting to see Wrexham on the road again. Of course, the Millwall victory still fresh in the memory, but even fresher was the weekend defeat to QPR. And last weekend, Norwich drew 1-1 away at Coventry City. It looked like a very good result externally. What was the game like?
Yeah, what was the game like? We got absolutely battered for 90 plus minutes, I think is the fair assessment of that game. Yeah, I think the stats don't lie. Coventry had, I think, 28 shots to Norwich's 4. And yeah, we were very, very lucky to even come away with a point. I think all Norwich fans will happily admit that. I mean, if you asked me before the game, would I have taken a point? I would have said absolutely. And the way how the game folded, I think I'm even more happy about getting the point. Obviously, we went ahead very early doors, and it was very much backs against the wall from then on in. And the amount of chances that Coventry had, I think we conceded something like 4.06 XG or something along that, which I think is ridiculous.
Wrexham levels of XG,
yeah.
That, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think we got the two highest XGs against this season, so I think the weekend's affair will definitely involve goals. But yeah, and then the way how we conceded was very poor. Harry Darling mistake, and Hadji Wright finally finished his chances, and yeah, we came away with a point. But I think on the grand scheme of things, it's a very, very good point away at Coventry. But it was a very un-Norwich-like performance. We had no grip hold of the game, couldn't keep hold of the ball. Our chance creation was very, very low, and yeah, Sargent saw nothing of the ball, which is completely unheard of in a Norwich sense.
So if we look at your results this season so far, then opening day 2-1 home defeat to Millwall, then beat Watford in the EFL Cup 2-1 away from home, 2-1 win again away at Portsmouth for your first league points of the season, then surprise, surprise, a 2-1 home defeat to Middlesbrough. You mix things up with a 3-0 loss to Southampton in the EFL Cup, a 2-0 win away at Blackburn, and then that weekend draw with Coventry, which means heading into the weekend you have 7 points, 7 goals for, 6 against. I guess the external question is, we are used to, a certain generation of fans, seeing Norwich competing for promotion every season. We're used to seeing them, albeit have short spells in the Premier League, but be there and be, competitive on occasions. What is the sort of feeling around Norwich going into a new season? Is every year an expectation of playoffs and promotion, or is that just because we've been used to seeing you in the Premier League previously that we just assume you'll be up there?
No, there's definitely an expectation when it comes to Norwich in terms of getting promoted. I think the new owners have said that, the sporting directors said that, the manager Liam Manning has also come out and said that promotion and playoffs is the expectation for Norwich. And even last season it was, despite we had such a poor season and the head coach seemed to know nothing about the expectations of finishing in the playoffs. It was a complete disaster. But yeah, with Norwich, it's definitely finishing in the playoffs, or either the head coach has got to go or the sporting director's got to go. It's going to be very sort of cutthroat and ruthless with Norwich this season. Although we've got a new manager in Liam Manning, we've signed a whole host of new players. I think we're one of the biggest spenders in the Championship this season as well. I think the expectation still stays the same. It's transition season or not with Norwich, promotion or playoffs at the very minimum, it is a must.
I know we're very early days into the season, but are you confident that you could go on to do that? I mean, what have you seen from those first 5 league games? Have you seen more positives and negatives, or are you concerned about the issues that are present?
Yeah, I think definitely on the latter side, I'm very concerned at the minute. But I think I have to sort of take a step back and realise we're 5 games into the league season under a new manager, a new system. There has been a lot of positives. Josh Sargent is, he's the main man. He's scoring goals, top scorer in the league as well. I think that's a key factor in any sort of promotion side, is having a striker that's able to finish. And Sargent, I think, is arguably the best in the league at that. And, we've signed Harry Darling, who's been an absolute rock defensively. I think we look a lot more solid defensively this season, which is a complete new for Norwich. We seem to never look good defensively, especially last season under Johannes Forrest. We looked disastrous at times, and it was quite comedic how we fell behind in games. So, it's nice to see a change in that side with Norwich. But in terms of chances, creating chances and taking the game by the scruff of the neck and being able to actually put away the chances that we do create, it seems to be a real difficulty. And at home, we can't seem to get going. We've lost every home game we've played this season, and that's very, very telling. Under Johannes Forrest, under David Wagner, we were very, very good at home, and that's sort of always been the Norwich thing in the Championship. We could, no matter how we'd done away at home, we were sort of very hard to beat. But at the minute, we do seem fairly easy to beat. So there is worrying signs there, definitely. And I think from the weekend as well at Coventry, conceding 4 XG is inexcusable, no matter the result. Obviously, we were lucky to get away with a point, but I think conceding the chances that we did concede, it was inexcusable. And we need to get better at sort of in the midfield, not losing that battle, and stopping teams creating big chances against us, really.
We know, I think, Wrexham fans listen to this, that we're going to probably play quite defensive this weekend, to absorb the pressure, hit you on the counter-attack, lots of balls into the box, Kiefer Moore to hopefully head towards the goal, be dangerous from set pieces. From a Norwich perspective, what has your sort of tactical blueprint been under Manning? Have you got a style of player ready that's in progress and you can see the foundations of it, or are you still a little sceptical about what the idea at play is?
Yeah, I'm still very sceptical, I must say. It's been very transitional over the last sort of 5 games. We started with a 5-back, a similar formation to yourselves, where you got your wing backs, and that didn't seem to work for Norwich. There was too many gaps left in behind. We were getting exposed too much, and against Millwall and Middlesbrough, it was a complete mess, I must say. And now we've sort of reverted back to the 4-back, and that seemed to work against Blackburn. We're on top of the game, creating chances. 1-2-0, kept a clean sheet as well. A lot of positives to take from that. But then away at Coventry, it sort of fell on its arse again, I must say. Like I said, the chances we did concede and sort of how Coventry played. Coventry were excellent, don't get me wrong, but just 28 shots conceded. It was it wasn't great. The midfield just looked completely off at the minute, and sort of the style of play that we're playing, I want to say I can't really say it's possession based. We look on top in games, but then there's some games where, especially away from home, where we do have the latter of the possession, and we're sort of playing on the transition, playing on the counter. But at home, we are trying to, utilise the build-up play, utilise the creative players we've got on our team, the likes of Jacob Wright, Kenny McLean, Papa Diallo, Emi Marcondes. The list goes on. We have very good creative players, but sort of that spark hasn't quite been there from anyone. And it's been a struggle at the minute.
We will all probably presume that Josh Sargent's going to be the main guy to watch this weekend. Then US men's national team forward as well, someone who might feature at the World Cup, a home World Cup next year as well. Who else, though? You could speak about them quite easily, but is there any other players that you think could feature this weekend who could hold the key, given the sort of stylistic strengths of both teams? I mean, like I said, I think from a Wrexham point of view, we'd be concerned by who you've got on your wings as well. So who are the players that you think could have an influence at Carrow Road?
I think Papa Diallo, our left winger, I think similar to what you say, of the five back that Wrexham play, obviously your wing backs are getting caught out quite a lot on Saturday, and Papa Diallo is a quick winger, likes to get in behind, likes to take on his man, likes to get into the box, likes to get balls into the box. Very attacking. And I think, judging how the fullbacks played on Saturday against QPR, I think he could have a field day. He's very explosive, very talented as well. We're yet to see him in a Norwich shirt sort of really have that key performance other than the cup win at Watford. So I think he'll be looking at that sort of Wrexham backline thinking, okay, this is my time to shine. But other than him, I think Harry Darling at the back and Jakov Medic, them two as a centre-half partnership seem to be excellent for Norwich. Like I said, defensively, Norwich have got so much better. And over the last few games, we've really seen that solidify. At Blackburn, keeping a clean sheet, and defensively just being sort of heroic on the line, blocking, the whole stuff that was going on there. They were fantastic. I think them two will be very interesting to watch, especially Harry Darling. He likes to switch play with long balls and get it out to the wingers as quick as possible. And Jakov Medic is very much a ball-playing centre-back, and sort of the right-footed Callum Doyle is what I like to call him at the minute. He does like to pick a pass. He got an assist at the weekend, a very nice threaded through ball to Matthias Kvistgården, who put away his finish very nicely. Unfortunately, I would love to say he'd be a key player to watch out for, but I think he picked up a slight knock at the weekend. He did come off, so I don't know if we are going to see him, but if he does feature, I think Kvistgården as well is a massive, massive talent.
I think while we're on the subject there, maybe Callum Doyle, we've seen glimpses of him so far in Wrexham's shirt. Was really good at Preston on his debut. I think he was exposed at QPR by a lack of a holding midfielder and the issues at left wing back that and Connor Cody to the side. It was a real mess, that performance at the weekend. So he looked frustrated. He looked a bit angry, but he seems like a real steal. I just want to know, like I said, he was with you last season. What was the reaction from a Norwich point of view when Wrexham signed Callum Doyle instead this summer?
I think it was that sense of what could have been, because I think I speak for a lot of Norwich fans here that Callum Doyle was, he was very, very good at Norwich. Obviously, defensively, we had our issues last season, but I don't think that was mainly down to him. We had the likes of Jose Cordoba and Shane Duffy that were horrendous throughout the majority of the season. But Callum Doyle was sort of that bright spark in defence, and going forward, I think was sort of his main attributes. His sort of passing in behind defences, the amount of assists that he got last season for a centre half / left back was phenomenal. Just some of the passes he put in behind for our forwards, were excellent. I remember there was one game, I think we played Swansea at home. We won like 5-0. I think I can't remember quite the scoreline, but I know we scored a fair few goals. But Callum Doyle put one unbelievable ball in behind for our forward Antti Sienats to finish off. I think it bounced round the defender and the goalkeeper. It was beautiful to watch. But going forward, I think Callum Doyle is fantastic defensively. There is some issues there, but I think he's still young. He's still acclimatising to men's football, despite the fact he's very, very experienced. He's had loan spells at Sunderland, Coventry, Leicester, Norwich, and now he's permanently at Wrexham. I think he is still young and still growing into the game, and I think with that experience and age, he will defensively get loads better. But the potential for Callum Doyle is there, and obviously he's got a buyback clause, doesn't he, with Man City? So he's clearly a top player.
So this weekend then, Wrexham versus Norwich. When I did your podcast, you said it was the Deadpool derby. Ryan Reynolds against. I mean, you're claiming Hugh Jackman as a Norwich fan.
He claims it himself. So
is that one of the ones where he's gone soccer air and pulled it out of a hat or something, or?
no, I think he is actually a Norwich fan. I can't remember how it came about, but he is definitely a Norwich fan. It's a strange one. I don't know how he's become a Norwich fan. There's no actual links there. I don't know if he's best friends with Delia Smith or whatnot, or he had dinner with Paul Lambert once when he was at Norwich. But Hugh Jackman is a Norwich fan. I've no idea about the links, but it's the Deadpool derby, I guess.
He does have posters of Team Pookie on his bedroom wall, doesn't he? It's a well-known fact that for Hugh Jackman. I mean, do I say let's be having you? What is the score prediction this weekend then from you? What is the Norwich mood, I suppose, going into this weekend then? Given what you said, the first 5 league games of the season, where you're on the table, from a Wrexham point of view, it's been very difficult to rationalise the start to our season because there's so much left of it, and so much could still happen. But from a Norwich point of view, like I said, is it a little bit of concern going to this weekend, or maybe a chance of that first home win that could kickstart your campaign properly?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think sort of that there is sort of that must-win attitude surrounding Norwich fans at the minute, and sort of looking for that home win to kickstart our season, so to speak, especially at home, because at home we have been very poor. Away from home we've been fantastic, but at home it's been a lot left to be desired. But I think going into the weekend, I am looking for a winner again. The sort of the viewpoint from Norwich fans is that is a must-win sort of situation. We do need to kickstart our season. It's been sort of very hit and miss so far this season. We don't really know the style of play, but it's performance-wise, it needs to be there from Norwich on Saturday. Scoreline-wise, it needs to be there from Norwich on Saturday. So. In terms of score prediction-wise, I think I'm going to have to back sort of the 2-1 with Norwich, loving that sort of 2-1 scoreline so far this season.
Thank you very much. We will see this weekend then what happens. Wrexham away at Norwich Saturday afternoon. So, Nath, a team that's not won at home this season, a team who is second to us in that expected goals against. It's got all the makings of a 0-0 draw, hasn't it? What would you do, Wrexham, tactically? Because, like we said, we're a bit limited with what we can actually change at wing-back as much as we want to see change. And Windass, I would love to put him in from the start, but I almost think the season is so long that you don't want to risk a repercussion of the injury.
Yeah, so it's interesting about that expected goals against for them is very high. So that in one sense, you go for it, don't you? You just try and overwhelm them quickly, but also they have the best player on the park, which will be Josh Sargent, who really has no business being in the Championship, is a US international, will very much be out the World Cup with Pochettino, who, well, if he lasts that long, Pochettino, I don't know. He's having a horrible time there with USMNT. But Josh Sargent, very good player. I think, did Norwich reject a bid of 22 million, or did he end up turning that move down? It was a lot of money. 20 plus million was on offer for him. If it was me, I would try to go there and be as defensively resolute as I could be. So I would say, go with Broadhead and Moore. Again, if not an Ipswich connection, just to really rile the Norwich fans up. I would go with Broadhead over Hardy. I've not been massively enamoured with what I've seen from Hardy on or off the ball. I think Broadhead must be chomping at the bit as well. He hasn't really hit the ground running yet. I know neither of us have really been particularly impressed. How things might have changed if he'd have scored that one in front of the tech end. You just never know with a forward once they get that first goal. I would go with those two up top. I would start Sheaf, I would start Kabore, and I would start Haim. I would start all three of those. For me personally, like I say, I would shift out Doyle. It's a lot of change there. I can't see Parky. I know you mentioned about the potentially changing the formation, or he has admitted he might need to change the personnel. I just think you want to give yourself a chance to stay in the game for as long as possible, because I've been to Cow Road. If we concede there, Liam Manning has been desperately waiting that first win at home. If they get their noses in front, it could be a really long afternoon there. It's a good crowd there, a good stadium. And I think as well, I don't know whether you've agreed with this, Rich, but I feel like in some games we get a bit sort of dazzled and rabbit in headlights once we concede. And we had that a little bit last season. Do you remember Birmingham away where Parky himself admitted that we never recovered fast enough once we conceded? It was kind of, we were a bit dizzy and almost drunk on the feeling of conceding and can't steady ourselves enough. And I've seen that in the day job and I've seen it as a fan as well. So stay in the game. Be resolute, protect Cody, try and dig in, get Hyam in there, who is, played every minute of the Championship last season, very experienced campaigner. Shuffled Doyle out, put Hyam on the left, which is not his best position, but put in there, or put Brunt in either, but I would play Hyam. Put, Max in there. Just do something a bit different because you were thoroughly outplayed by QPR, and I think just doing the same thing over and over again isn't they say that doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is insanity. So I think he'll change it.
I think he won't change it because for all I've said here, we've been good away from home this season. We shouldn't have lost against Southampton. We let ourselves down with individual errors that day, right at the death, and we should have put the game to bed. We really should have before that. We beat Preston away in the Cup, and we beat Millwall away.
Okay, well, Preston obviously caveated by the fact that we were thoroughly outplayed in the first half with our second string team, but
yeah, our second string team, and we won when we brought our first team on. So I actually think our team, because of the flaws we've said, we are not very well suited. We never have been to breaking teams down. We're not actually very well suited to playing typically as a home team right now because of the flaws of our team, because you expect so much more from your wing backs. I think away from home, the job actually becomes a bit easier because the task is simpler. Like you said, you sit back, you absorb possession, you play for those quick counterattacks, the transitions from back to front, and you play for set pieces. So I think at Carrow Road this weekend, it'll be very similar to that Millwall game and very similar to lots of games we saw away from home last season, where the opposition will have 60, 65% of the possession. It's just whether they can take their chances and break us down. If they can't, we'll get some chances on the break. But I think that it's going to be similar to that Millwall game. I think just the way our team is set up.
You're not starting Sheaf, you're not starting Broadhead, you're not starting Kabore.
I think there'll be some personnel changes. It'll be a Conqueror in goal. I wouldn't be surprised if Max keeps his place. Cody will keep his place. I actually think he'll go Doyle centre back. I think he'll go Kabore right wing back. Ryan Longman or Ryan Barnett on the left. He'll probably flip a coin in the changing room. A bit harsh to say that, I know, but the way I do, I can't make a difference between them. I think in midfield, you then go O'Brien, Dobson, and Sheaf. I just don't think Windass is match fit quite yet to be starting. I wouldn't risk him. And up top, I go Broadhead and Moore as well. Just like you said, just rile the home fans by playing two players from their biggest rivals. And
I've got a feeling he will pick McLean. I got a feeling he will pick McLean. I don't think he'll pick McLean and Matty James, and it's only ever been one of those to wear the armband. Have we ever had a situation where neither of those have been on the pitch to wear the armband? Or I'm trying to think. I don't remember seeing someone else wear the armband.
O'Connell wore it. I seen recently. Obviously, he's not here anymore, but I'm thinking from last season.
But I just, I don't think any of the others now that are still at the club have worn it. So. Just a curious one. There might have been an instance this season where I've just missed it.
Last season.
Yeah, just this season, I mean, though, in terms of, I don't know whether I haven't got the sort of the data or stats in front of me, whether one of James or McLean have been on the pitch at any one time. I just think when the going gets tough, not to use a Billy Ocean lyric here that the tough gets going, but when the going gets tough, you're going to lean on experience, aren't you? So you're going to lean on Connor Cody. You think you're going to lean on Hyam. You're going to lean on McLean. You might even lean on Matty James. You're just going to lean
involved here, isn't there?
There's a lot of leaning. Lean on me when you're not strong, which Parky's not right now. I'm going to stop because I'm just being silly now. But I think there's a very real possibility that while I wouldn't do it, I could see him picking McLean at Carrow Road.
Yeah, Billy Ocean will be sink or swim for Wrexham at Carrow Road.
Love Billy Ocean as well. Just a shout out, big fan of Billy Ocean. So if anyone in the comments has been hating on, no, but if anyone
think he's listening,
no, but if anyone's sort of been like slagging me off all podcast in the comments, but they like Billy Ocean, I'm just redeeming some.
Or if you've been Well, if you've been
Go ahead.
slagging Nath off and you hate Billy Ocean as well, it's another reason to put him on your dartboard.
It's all over if they hate Billy Ocean. I don't like them if they don't like Billy Ocean. So it's all fine. It's all love and war. I was going to say quickly before I don't know if we're close to wrapping it up anyway, but the Phil Jones thing, I got a lot of traction when I put out the picture of Phil Jones in the the chairman box, the Betty Buzz suite or whatever it's called now. My understanding is that he was invited personally by Mike Williamson. I believe they live in a very similar area, sort of in Cheshire around Manchester. So I've got to know each other quite well. And also from various sources I've spoken to, see again, we both cover Man United, so we know plenty of people around that have worked with Phil Jones and close to him. My understanding is that there have been conversations about Phil Jones coming to Wrexham for months. We're talking the back end of 2024, that there have been meetings that have included Williamson and Parkinson and others talking about the potential of bringing Phil Jones to the club in conversations that have been in various capacity, not the manager, but in terms of maybe coaching staff, first team coaching staff, or in an academy role. He's seen as somebody that I think he's got his UEFA A license. He's just passed his sports director PFA business school degree, I think. He's been in the same, Richie might know better than me, but he's just been in the sort of PFA business school with Kiefer Moore, doing, I'm pretty sure, a sports director qualification. You got to think the academy director potential role would be a fit. First team coaching, he has coached with Man United's under-18s. That was a voluntary role last season when they had Adam Lawrence and they did really well there. So, Phil Jones wasn't just invited on a jolly. It was very much a pitch to show him what a Wrexham match day looks like, able to introduce him to Ryan Reynolds. And the fact he was there, obviously the cat was out the bag then in terms of once he's pictured, you can't really keep it under wraps. But I'm led to believe that this is very much not a new thing. It's been something that I think Mike Williamson in particular has been keen to push for a long, long time. So definitely one to watch, the Phil Jones one, whether that comes to pass.
We will see. Nath, Reading at home next Tuesday night as well. A note that if we were to get through on that one, Carabao Cup draw is next Wednesday night, the 24th of September. So if Wrexham happen to get through in the Carabao Cup, we'll maybe delay our recording on the Wednesday night, or we'll obviously allude to that. So maybe if there's a slight delay on the Thursday for next week's podcast, it'll be because we were trying to squeeze in the Carabao Cup draw as well. But Reading on Tuesday night, we've seen wholesale changes for the two previous rounds in the competition as well. It'll be interesting to see how Parky approaches that, regardless of what happens this weekend, because like we said, I'd expect Thomason to start that one, Windass to get a go, maybe you start Hardy as well. Obviously, some of the squad filler, some of the squad players like Owen O'Connell doesn't play for us anymore. Danny Ward is injured, so you can't rotate the goalkeeper maybe as obviously as he did do in previous rounds. Could still play Burton, but might not be as obvious to do so. Who are you expecting, or who would you like to see next Tuesday night? I know it's difficult to say given we've not seen this weekend, but what do you want to see from that Reading match? See,
you've got to go.
It's also worth noticing that with that Grimsby into the next stage as well, it's a very open competition, isn't it?
Yeah, you get through. You're in the last 16 in the Carabao Cup, and there's also something funny I wanted to ask you in a second, which you'll just roll your eyes at. But before I get to that part, you've got to go for it now at this point in the Cup. I know it's only the third round people look at, but you'd be in the final 16 teams. You'd almost be nailed on to get a positive draw. Either you get that big Premier League team, or you get a very winnable tie, and then you've got your eyes fixed on the quarterfinals. If I know it's a big if Wrexham can get through and say they got a home draw against Grimsby, people might be like, oh, but Sean Pearson back at the racecourse, a winnable tie, you would think. Or you don't get that, you get Man City at the Etihad, or you get Liverpool at Anfield, or Liverpool at the racecourse. There's a lot of pros if you can get through to the last 16 stage. I would go for it. I would play Burton. I think he deserves that above anything else. He's not a bad goalkeeper. If anything, some people would say that he's better than Okonkwo. So I think he would deserve to play there. I would start the likes of Kabore, Sheaf, even if they play on Saturday. I would try and get some minutes into the legs here. Use your better players. That's what we've done over the years. Use better players to our advantage and kind of use that financial muscle. Well, Reading are a solid League One team, but let's not let's not do what we did at Preston, where it took bringing on our first team, to win that game. Just go out with the first team. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I would play Kiefer Moore. I'm not at the point where resting players. And you know what? I was asked the other day, Rich. So you'll laugh at this. So if you win the Carabao Cup, you get into that. I think you get into the qualifiers for the Conference League. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, you'll get into some level of European qualifier, right? There's somebody in work was asking me about, Parky and how's things been going. And they said, obviously Parky took Bradford to the Carabao Cup final against Swansea. And they asked me, what would I think or would I accept relegation from the Championship, but winning the Carabao Cup and having a European tour in League One?
I'd take that every single day.
I feel like I absolutely would take that. I absolutely would take that.
I remember even growing up when Wigan won the FA Cup and they got relegated and they were in the Championship and they played Europa League. And the same happened to Birmingham City. They won the League Cup in 2011 or 2012?
Over Femi Martins. Yeah.
And they got relegated that season and they played Europa League football as a Championship team as well.
I remember who they played. I remember Bolton Wanderers once playing Bayern Munich. I feel like Kevin Davis
scored the first ever goal at the European goal at
Allianz Arena,
Allianz Arena or something. Or the first English.
Anyway, we're not going down, but I'm just saying, just a hypothetical that if you imagine,
I'd always take winning a trophy over finishing in a league position that's not winning.
So would I.
And I'd always take Wrexham being in Europe. I know you could argue every single game we play this season is going to Europe, is crossing the border, isn't it? But I think that of course I'd take it. But
you were shaking your head then that you wouldn't play Kiefer Moore. You're not playing Kiefer Moore.
No.
Playing anyone else?
I just think the Reading game will be basically the team that played at Preston, other than the players who aren't at the club anymore. Ashfield will start. I think you'll probably see Elliot Lee in and around the squad as well. I think Ryan Hardy will start up top with Sam Smith probably. You see Burton in goal. Defence will be interesting because I'm not sure how much of a change you can make. In that regard, I'm not sure how many
Max Hyman, Brunt, I don't know. Who are you protecting there?
Scar will play.
Yeah, I just wouldn't.
On the wings probably. I just think there'll be 10, 11 changes again against Reading, regardless of what happens this weekend. If that's not made you want to buy tickets, I don't know what has.
I disagree on that. I think if Wrexham don't get a positive result of the weekend, they badly need a win. Because then, like you say, so you best believe Wrexham don't get a result at Carrow Road. Saturday night, you're going to see articles come out that there's been more meetings, there's more talks, more pressure on Parky. It's a never-ending cycle. Just whether you would like it or not, you're probably not going to like it. But I'm just telling you how it will be. I'm not saying I want it to be this way or you want it to be this way, Rich. That is just how it is. You know what sort of kills everything and quietens everything? Winning. And you best believe you cannot. I don't think if you don't get a result in Norwich, I do not think you can allow yourself to get an upset alert in the cup. So I think the weekend's result probably does dictate what happens on Tuesday.
I do. And the reason I said they'll be changed on Tuesday is because Wrexham are going to win on Saturday against Norwich. What is your prediction, Nath, Carrow Road?
Why did I just say yes? I'm going to say my prediction is 2-1 Norwich. So I don't know why I said yes like that. I think Norwich will. I think Norwich will beat us. I just think we're not at a point where this team has figured out how to keep the ball out of the net. We're conceding 100+ shots at the minute, and I'm hoping this is some sort of reverse jinx, because whenever I say that Wrexham will win or lose, it goes the other way. I said Millwall would win, didn't I? And then they lost, so let's see.
I'd say Norwich away is easier than Millwall away on paper. But of course, football isn't played on paper.
So what do you think? What's your score prediction?
I mean, every Norwich game this season seems to have finished 2-1. So I'm going 2-1 to the Wrexham Red Dragons this weekend. I think, like you said, when I actually, it's very easy to be negative about Wrexham. I actually don't think we're as bad as it's being made out to be at times. Like I said, I think there's a couple of stylistic things that can maybe change a little bit. I think like I said, playing away from home, I think suits us a lot better. So we will see what happens this weekend. Whatever happens, we will be back next week to look back at the 2 matches we have previewed. Thank you very much to you, wherever you are in the world, as always, for listening for watching in. Like we said, please get your thoughts in with what has been wrong for Wrexham so far this season. robbrownred@gmail.com. You can get us on all the socials and you can comment on YouTube as well down below. Thank you very much, as always, to Red 10 People Development for their continued support of the podcast. and to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic for the music, the stings we use in the show. Back the boys, make some noise, and we'll see you next time.
But I'm not going to check the YouTube comments, eh?
A Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.